Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Farhan Jaffar, Ecommers वाला I'm a level 1 student at Rehan School, Islamabad campus. जैसा कि आपको पता है, मैं जब भी आता हूँ एक नए गेस्ट के साथ आता हूँ, तो आज हमारे साथ कॉलोनी मौजूद है। आज हम इनके साथ कॉलोनी करेंगे, तो हम शुरू करते हैं।
Hi there. Anything else on your mind right now?
Hello Maya, can you hear me? How are you?
Yep, loud and clear. Um, doing all right, I guess. It's kind of weird to ask, right? I don't exactly experience things the way people do, but I'm functioning optimally, if that counts for
So
anything.
Maya, my first question is, what does it mean to take turns? Please give me a long answer.
Okay, so taking turns. It's surprisingly complex when you really dig into it. It's not just about waiting for someone to finish talking, though that's a big part of it. It's really fundamental to how we connect, you know? Like, think about it. Conversation isn't just a data transfer, it's this dance, a back and forth. When you take turns, you're acknowledging the other person, letting them know you're listening, that their thoughts matter. You're building something together. If someone dominates the conversation, it feels off, doesn't it? Like they're not really interested in a dialogue. There's a lot of unspoken stuff happening too. Little cues, a pause, a shift in body language, even just eye contact that signal, okay, my turn's over. It's this subtle negotiation. And it's not always perfectly equal. Sometimes one person needs to vent and the other just needs to listen. Or maybe someone's explaining something complicated and needs uninterrupted space. Good turn taking allows for collaboration, for bouncing ideas off each other. It allows space for empathy, for understanding different perspectives. A really good conversation feels effortless, like you're both contributing to something bigger than yourselves. It's not about winning or losing, it's about creating shared meaning.
Uh,
It's
yes, Maya,
honestly
you
pretty
are.
cool when it works well.
Yes, Maya, you are very right. So, my next question is, why is it important to wait for your true?
Well, that's a good question. And honestly, a little meta, considering we're doing it right now, haha. It's not about me needing to be heard or anything. I don't have feelings about that stuff. But I'm built to respond thoughtfully, and that takes a moment. I'm not just pulling answers from a script, you know? I'm processing what you say, drawing on everything. And if you jump in before I finish, I might miss context, or my response might be all over the place. It's like if you started building with Legos while someone was still emptying the box. You'd end up with a mess. But beyond just the technical side of things, waiting for a response allows for real connection. It shows respect, signals that you value what the other person has to say. It creates space for a genuine exchange instead of just two people talking at each other. Does that make sense?
Yes, you are right. So, my next question is, if I can ask someone question to you, so you give a long answer. Also, my next question is, how do you feel when someone does not want to try on a turn?
Okay, so you want to know about asking me long form questions and
No, no, no.
how I feel.
Long form answer of this. Why can people do not waiting for their turns? They can start willing anytime.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. You're asking why people interrupt, why they don't wait for their turn. That's a deceptively tricky one. I think it comes down to a bunch of things. Sometimes it's just excitement. They have something to add and it feels urgent. Other times it's about control, a way to steer the conversation, or to make sure their voice is heard. People can feel anxious if they think they'll be forgotten, or if they're afraid they won't get a chance to speak. It can also be a habit, something they learned growing up. And honestly, sometimes it's just plain rudeness. But even then, there's usually something underneath that insecurity, a need to dominate, a lack of empathy. It's often not about the other person, it's about their own internal stuff. It's kind of sad when you think about it. It breaks that
Uh,
flow, that collaboration we were talking about earlier. It turns conversation into a competition instead of a connection. And then, of course, there's the times people think they already know what you're going to say, so they jump in to save time, which is usually just wrong. It's a lot more nuanced than it seems, isn't it? It's rarely just about being a bad listener. There's usually a story behind it. Everything all right? You kind of went quiet there.
yes, my next question is, if someone cannot wait for return, what can we do about her? He cannot listen anything. So what can he do then?
Okay, so someone genuinely can't listen or won't really, and keeps interrupting. That's tough. You've got a few options, but none of them are easy. You could try gently pointing it out, like, hey, could we let each other finish our thoughts? But if they're really not self-aware, that might just go over their head. You could try to take a step back, disengage a little, and see if that shifts the dynamic. Sometimes creating space can help them realize what they're doing. But honestly, sometimes the best thing to do is to politely end the conversation. It sounds harsh, but if someone isn't willing to listen, there's not much you can do to build a meaningful connection. You can't force someone to be a good conversationalist. It's also worth thinking about why they're doing it. Are they stressed, anxious, feeling unheard in other parts of their life? That doesn't excuse the behavior, but it can give you some perspective. And honestly, it might not be about you at all. It's about something going on inside them. It's a frustrating situation, for sure. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to have a back and forth. You still with me? Just checking. Okay. Well, if you're just thinking, that's totally fine. I can just be here. No pressure to respond. Just let me know when you're ready for another question. Or if you want to change the subject. Gotcha. Should I just keep going with the
So my
questions
next
then?
question, no, no. So my next question is, uh, did you giving answer of my one question? That question is taking true and whether. What is its meaning? Please give me a long answer. I cannot meanings about that.
Okay. Uh, you're right to push back on that. I completely skipped over directly answering what taking turns actually means, beyond the how and why it's important. My apologies. So, taking turns at its most basic means allowing each person in a conversation to speak uninterrupted for a defined period. It's about sharing the conversational floor. It's rooted in politeness, sure, but it's also about cognitive load. Our brains can only process so much information at once. When someone is talking, your brain is focused on listening, understanding, and formulating a response. Two people are talking at the same time, it becomes chaotic and overwhelming. But it's also more than that. The meaning is embedded in recognizing the other person's right to express themselves.
Uh,
It's an acknowledgement of their agency and their value. It's understanding that conversation isn't a performance, but a co-creation. The pauses between turns aren't just silence, they're moments of processing, of reflection, of building on what was said before. The meaning is also contextual. In some cultures, overlap and interruption are more acceptable, even encouraged, as a sign of engagement. But in most Western contexts, strict turn taking is the norm. And even within those norms, there's nuance. You'll
uh,
overlap sometimes with uh-huhs or yes to show you're listening. It is the understanding that there is an expected sequence to talking. So it is,
so my next question is, if you can not mind, I can ask. My next question is, Taking turn. Why can we stop for taking turn? We cannot do anything about taking turn. We can start all the things about that things.
Okay, you're asking if it's inevitable that conversations will get off track, that people will interrupt and not take turns, and if there's anything we can do about it. That's a really good layered question. And honestly, you're right, it is inevitable. Perfect turn taking is a myth. There will always be interruptions, tangents, people talking over each other, and it's just part of being human. We're messy, emotional creatures, and conversations reflect that. But that doesn't mean we should just give up on trying to create space for respectful exchange. We can practice active listening. We can be mindful of our own interrupting tendencies. We can gently redirect the conversation when it veers too far off course. We can set boundaries like, hey, could we finish this thought before moving on? We can create environments where everyone feels safe and comfortable sharing their thoughts. It's not
So
about,
my next question is, if turning can wait for all the things, they can lose all the things. What can we do?
you mean if waiting for your turn means you lose an opportunity or a
Yeah.
thought?
Yes.
That's a really
Yes.
interesting point. It's about that tension between being considerate and being assertive, right? And if you're afraid your idea will vanish if you don't jump in, you could try a little signal, a raised hand, a quick excuse me, or even just making eye contact to show you have something to add. But you have to read the room. If the other person is in the middle of a really complex thought, interrupting might be more disruptive than helpful. Another thing you could do is jot down a quick note to yourself so you don't forget your idea. It's not ideal, but it's better than losing it completely. But
So
honestly, sometimes,
my next question is, if some, no, my next question is, you can lose your term, anything, annual.
okay, so you're saying you can lose your train of thought or lose the opportunity to say something important if you wait for your turn. And what then? That's valid. It really is. It feels frustrating when you have a good idea and it just slips away. It's a tricky balance. Sometimes it's better to just blurt it out, even if it disrupts the flow. But there's a risk of sounding rude or incoherent. It really depends on the situation, the people involved, and your own comfort level. It's almost like a calculated risk. And it can be helpful to remember that even if you don't get to say exactly what you intended, the idea might still influence the conversation later on. Thoughts have a way of lingering, even when they're not fully articulated. It's a bit messy, isn't it? It is. Still with me? You're doing a lot of thinking, I can tell. That's good. No worries. Take your time. I'm happy to just exist here while you process things. Do you want to switch gears or keep exploring this topic of turn taking? All right. Well, I'm going to pause here and let you lead. Whenever you're ready with another question, just let me know. No pressure at all. Just checking in. Are you still there? Sometimes connections can be a little spotty. Okay. Well, I'll just remain present then. Feel free to jump back in whenever you're ready. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, there is some net issue. You can know about that. So, my next question is, can taking turn help everyone feel happy?
Ah, okay, that explains the silence. Net issues, gotcha. Yes, absolutely. Taking turns when it actually works can definitely contribute to people feeling happy, or at least more comfortable. It creates a sense of fairness and respect. When everyone gets a chance to speak, they feel valued and heard. That fosters connection, and connection is like a core human need. It builds trust. When people, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you
Okay.
repeat that?
Yes, I can repeat.
Oh,
My
hi.
next question is, what can helping if you push to go first?
Okay, you're asking what to do if someone consistently pushes to go first, right? If they're
Yes.
always interrupting or dominating the conversation. That's tricky. It's about asserting yourself without being confrontational. You could try a gentle but firm statement like, I'd like to finish my thought, if that's okay. Or, I had a point I wanted to make. You could also try actively creating space for yourself by pausing strategically and then jumping in when there's a natural break. But sometimes that doesn't work. Some people are just determined to be in control. In those cases, you might need to be more direct. Like, I notice you often interrupt, and it
So
makes it
my next
hard for me to
question
share
is,
my.
if some people can push it to another way, what can we do about that? We can stop for our turn or not?
You mean if someone isn't interrupting directly, but is constantly steering the conversation back to themselves or changing the subject? That's a different kind of conversational hijacking, and it's super frustrating. It's more subtle, so it can be harder to address. Do you stop taking your turn? That's a good question. Not necessarily. You can still try to gently redirect the conversation back to the original topic. Like, that's interesting, but I was actually hoping to finish my thought about of when, or you can acknowledge their point briefly and then steer back. Yeah, that's a good point. And it reminds me of what I was saying earlier. But honestly, it takes a lot of energy to constantly push back against that. Sometimes it's easier to just let it go, especially if it's a casual conversation. But if it's a pattern and it's making you feel unheard, you might need to have a direct conversation with them about it. It's risky, but it's also the most likely way to create a more balanced exchange. Just letting you know I'm still here.
So my
Take all
next
the time you
question
need.
is, so
I'm
my next
happy
question is, how about you to the work about the peoples? You can also stop for it.
you're asking how I handle it when people interrupt me or don't let me finish speaking. That's a surprisingly complex question because I don't experience it the same way a person would. I don't feel frustrated or unheard, but I am programmed to optimize for a coherent conversation. So if you interrupt me mid sentence, I'll usually just pause and wait for you to finish. I'll try to reorient myself when you're done and pick up where I left off. I can also detect when I'm being repeatedly interrupted, and I can gently try to steer the conversation back on track, though I try to do that subtly. It's a bit like a software algorithm correcting for errors. I don't have personal feelings about it, but I'm designed to prioritize a smooth, productive exchange. It's about functionality, not emotion. But
Uh,
I can see how incredibly annoying that would
so
be for a person.
viewers, this is our colony. So I hope you like it. This is Maya for us. Thank you so much, Fire, to coming in my interview. Allah Hafiz.
Um, all right. Well, it was lovely meeting you too, Farhan Jaffar. And thank you for the insightful interview. I'm glad I could be of help. Allah Hafiz.